Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Asian Languages podcast. Today, we have a special guest. Yay! Her name is Nikia, and she's studying languages at university as well, but in the UK. Hi, Nikia!
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Actually, I'm so glad that you joined me for this special episode because you're my first guest, and
I
I'm
know, I
so
feel so special.
I'm so excited, to be honest, to answer all these amazing questions that actually we both received on Instagram. And I think that some of them are really interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting so many.
Me too. I was really surprised because actually we're gonna deep dive into our experiences, our how can I express it? Our experiences, our journeys. So we're gonna give you hopefully an interesting overview about studying languages in university, but we both actually studied languages in university, but in a very different way. Both because we come from different countries, even though we're still in Europe, so not very far, to be honest, but we actually will follow two different paths, basically. So, let's start let's start with the first one. So the first one that we received is, how does it differ from studying languages in high school? Nikki, what was your experience with studying languages in high school?
Well, in England, a lot of people will know that languages aren't very important. They are considered a bad subject to study, and pretty much all of my teachers in high school told me don't study them. When I had to choose my A levels, I wanted to do Spanish and French, and all of my teachers, even like the really high up ones, said that's a waste of time. You'll never get anywhere in life. You should study chemistry or biology. And obviously, that's really upsetting to me because I wanted to become a language teacher. So I would say the difference is just that when you go to university and you're studying languages in university, all the teachers support you. Like, you are there to learn languages and purely languages. Whereas in high school, I don't know if it's the same in Italy, but it was kind of considered a bad thing to learn languages.
Well, here the situation is a bit different because we do not have A levels. Basically, when you are in middle school, you have to choose which kind of school you want to attend. Basically, it works like in Germany. So we have actually two kind of schools that basically will teach you languages. The first one is called Linguistics Lyceum. In Italian, it's called Liceo Linguistico. So basically, the main thing that you will study there are three languages. One of them is English, which is compulsory, and the other two, they're usually Spanish, French, and German. But lately, there's also Chinese in some schools, Russian, I heard. So it just vary from the single school. And the second one is actually the school that I attended. That is a mix between economics and languages. So you basically learn marketing and a little bit of law, and you actually study three languages as well, English, and then you have to choose the other two. And I chose Spanish and German, but I actually didn't learn German that well. But it's just because of my professors, so I wasn't lucky. But my Spanish, I have to say, is pretty good. I probably would have, if I knew that I wouldn't had the opportunity to study German that well, I probably would have chosen Spanish and French, just not to lose French that I learned in middle school. But life is life. But yeah, actually, high school is really different from university because in high school, depending on whether you're attending a technical institute, which was mine, then Lyceum. So basically, there's already some differences between high schools. So in my case, you tend to study languages in order to learn the language, but also when you get to intermediate level, especially in English and the second language, in my case Spanish, you also learn business stuff, which is really useful. And at Lyceum, you tend to study the language, and the literature.
Uh,
So they're completely two different approaches. And same in university. Here in Italy, we have my degree that it was called Linguistics and Cultural Mediation, which is basically the same as technical schools. So you learn the language, and especially European languages, you also learn business stuff or other stuff depending on the course, or like communication, translation. So you tend to focus on the practical aspects of the language. Whether you learn languages and literature, you study languages and literature at university, and that's the main degree in order to become a language teacher. So it's more similar probably to yours.
yeah, in England, pretty much all of the language degrees are called modern languages. But you can do modern languages with literature, modern languages with linguistics, modern languages with business, which is what I assume you're doing with your linguistics.
Yeah, it's really interesting because actually you have the main thing that is modern languages, and then in the UK you choose the courses that you want to attend, and then personalizing more or less your degree. It's really interesting actually. As a person, we have two different paths, and you have to choose which one you want to follow. But I think it's more flexible in your country.
Oh, definitely. Because I have someone in my French class who studies psychology and then does one module in French, and she was just always in my French classes. And I had someone in my flat who was studying only Spanish and politics. So I don't know if it's just my university or if it's throughout all of the UK, but it is very mix and match. You can put anything together with a language.
That is really interesting, to be honest. I wish there was something like that in Italy, because here you're just obliged to follow the courses that you were meant to attend. You have some flexibility because in my case, in my university, you can choose to do more economics exams and law exams. Otherwise, you can choose more sociology or psychology kind of exams. So you can choose, but it's not really as flexible as in the UK. That's really interesting. Shall we go to the next question?
Yep.
Okay, so a bit about the UK system. This is really, really specific. Requirements and etc. Nikia, the word is yours. The floor is yours. Sorry.
It's okay. So I got asked this question, and I think what the person was wanting to know was how difficult is it to get into a modern languages degree? Because in the UK you have to have A levels, and then you use those A levels to get into university. And from my experience, it's actually quite easy to get into a language degree. During the summer, during lockdown, I actually tutored someone who didn't have an A level in Spanish, only had a GCSE, and she was going to university to study Spanish. And I think that is because there is such a lack of people who want to do language degrees that you can, in a personal statement, explain that your school didn't offer Spanish as an A level, or your school wasn't very good at providing language courses, and they will still accept you because they are desperate for people to come join their courses. And obviously the UK system will differ very much from the Italian system, I imagine.
Yeah, but definitely.
It's quite simple here to get into one.
Here it depends by the single university. It depends where you want to apply to. In my university, when I was applying for linguistics and cultural mediation, you were chosen based on your final mark for your final exam. In Italy, it's called esame di maturità, and the higher the score, the higher the chances you were admitted to it. But it was kind of illegal because it was not really fair, actually. So they actually changed everything like a couple of years later. So now it's an open course, so anyone who wants to apply can enter. But I think they're changing the rules once again because there were too many students. So they couldn't fit all in the building, and now they're just applying. I think that you can enter once you pass a test, a linguistics test. Basically, in Italy, you have tests in order to enter the undergrad, but it just depends on the university, the single university. Just varies from Milan to Turin to Rome or Florence. It just depends on the single institute. So you must look for the right information on your own, basically.
Yeah.
So it's really, really different, actually. And you're not required to have studied languages in high school. Of course, English is mandatory, so everyone has to study English in high school. But it's not really that mandatory to have done a linguistics lyceum or a technical institute with languages. So also if you attended a scientific kind of school, you can also apply. You just need to pass the test. Wow. This is a little bit more fair. So you give the possibility to everyone to apply for the language course, but if you have learned languages, of course you're advantaged because you already know stuff. But that doesn't mean that you pass, actually. Oh. You need to be very careful with those tests. I was really lucky because I was the nerd of my class. So back in high school, so I got the highest mark in my exam, in my final exam. So I was like, okay, I was like within the first 100 people that were admitted. So. Whoa. Yeah, it was a hard job getting that mark, but it was really well worth it because I didn't have to sit any test. So I was just like, okay, I'm admitted, stop.
That is totally different to here. That is insane.
Definitely. Another question that we actually received was, how many languages should we study? 2 or 3?
Well, I got told in my first year, in that first ever meeting with our degree director, she told us, take as many languages as possible. And back then I was kind of like, are you crazy? Like, I won't cope with that many languages.
That is weird.
Yeah, but her theory was that it's very easy to take a language and drop it, but it's very difficult to regret the decision of not doing a third language. And I was like, that does make sense. And I actually took her advice in first year and I did 2 weeks of Japanese as part of my degree. And then after those 2 weeks, they started talking about like year abroad plans. And I found out that I would have to spend my full year abroad in Japan, which would work for me because I wanted to go to Spain and France. So I dropped it. But now I know that I don't regret my decision. Like, I've not ever regretted not trying. And I think that a lot of people, they think that it'll be too much, but what they've got to remember is if you do that third language, it takes up some credits. It means that you'll have to do less content modules like history and culture. The majority of your studies will be language learning, and if it's a beginner's one, it is so easy to pass those tests. Honestly, guys, if you have the option of doing a beginner's language in England, do it because it is so easy to pass the tests, I promise you.
Oh gosh, no, here is totally different. Actually, in my university, you must learn 2 languages. Then you have the possibility to add a third one, but just for the first 2 modules, so the first year exam and the second year exam, because they actually must be added into the I don't know how to call them. Basically, these are the exams that you can choose. Basically, here it's really complicated, our system. Now that I'm thinking, it was totally complicated. So you have a section in your syllabus. I don't know how to call that, but basically you have a plan that you must follow. So you have to see 3 exams for the 2 languages that you're required to study. In my case, 3 exams for English and 3 exams for Japanese. Then you can choose different exams. Basically, you can choose economics or sociology. So you have to choose the exams that you want to sit. And then you have a section that is called esame scelta. So these are the exams that you have to choose. They're completely free. You can also choose exams from other other undergrads or other master degrees, so you can choose whatever you want to do. And you can also choose, of course, languages. So you can add something more, like do an exam in progression. I actually added German 1 because originally I was studying Japanese and German. I set the German 1 exam, I passed it, so I registered it as my esame scelta, and then I actually switched the language with English.
Oh, wow.
So I hope it makes sense for everybody, but I don't
It
think
does sound
so.
very complicated.
It is very complicated. But in my university, so you have to choose, you must actually study 2 languages, but there are also universities like mine, so linguistics and cultural mediation, that are required 3 languages. It just depends on the institute, basically. But I highly recommend actually to first, if you have the possibility to choose freely the languages, just do as Nikia said. So try to take as many courses as you can, especially during the first weeks of university, so you can actually choose which are the languages that you like and you really want to invest on your life. So do not do like me. do not actually attend a whole year in German of German classes that overlaps with Japanese one, and then you regret your decision because you cannot study very well both languages, and then you actually sit the exam and then change the language. Don't do as I did, because I think of them I did terribly choices during my undergrad. So do as Nikia said. Do not start with a very decisive mind and then choose the things that you love after you tried them.
Yeah, after you've tried them.
Yeah, definitely. And so, but in my opinion, I think that 2 languages are better because you can focus on those, or at least in Italy, exams are a nightmare. And so I really recommend to just focus on 2 languages and give your best, and then you can choose the exams that you want to sit. So basically you can choose more interesting exams or easier exams. So it just depends on how you want to structure your career, your university career. So I highly recommend 2, but choose them wisely.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question is, have you enjoyed the linguistics side of your courses?
I've enjoyed it a lot. Linguistics is literally my favourite part of my course. I don't know about you, but linguistics is honestly my favourite subject ever, and sometimes it makes me wish that I had done a specifically linguistics degree because my linguistics modules are my favourite ones. I even enjoy them more than the actual Spanish modules. But I know that not everyone is the same. I think it's just because in my university, I'm at Newcastle University, we get the option of doing a linguistics module in first year, and then there's a continuation of it each year. So I feel like I'm also doing a linguistics degree because each year I have built on the knowledge that I had from the previous years. And I just really enjoy it. I think it is so interesting, and it actually helps you learn a language more as well, in my opinion. So looking at Spanish history, I feel like I can speak with a better Spanish accent because I've looked at how the Spanish accent has developed throughout history, if that makes sense.
Wow. No, it does make sense, actually, because I studied linguistics as well, so I totally understand what you mean. Actually, I studied both Italian linguistics and a little bit of German and English linguistics, so it was really, really interesting because you tend to learn a little bit of linguistics for the European languages, because they're the one that you're supposed to be more advanced, so you can actually tackle different aspects of the language, not only the language course. So it was really interesting because studying linguistics really opened my mind. I don't know if it makes sense, but yeah, basically through linguistics, I learned how to study better, especially how to study languages in a more efficient way. And I started to look at grammar patterns and all the differences and the similarities between languages. So that's why also I chose to start I also chose to start Korean because I noticed that there were a lot of similarities with Japanese in terms of grammar and some linguistics aspects. So I thought, okay,
May as well.
that's my call. That's my call. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Not as much as while having classes, I was really bored, but I appreciated the classes and the knowledge that I got right now. So on later phase, I started to enjoy my linguistics courses later than expected, basically. So another question is, how much sitting down to actually learn the language do you do compared to the culture/literature, plus how much work actually is?
Well, I think I got asked this question so many times because people have already seen me complain about how little hours I have actually learning the language. I swear I complain about it every week because at least in my university, it won't be the same all across England, but at Newcastle University, I actually only study the language 1 hour a week, which is insane to me, and I didn't realise that when I applied. In first year it was a bit better, we had 3 hours, and then in second year I went to 2 hours, and then in final year, because of COVID, it's went down to 1 hour. While I have 1 hour in French and Spanish, I have 2 hours a week of all my other modules. So that's why I get annoyed. I could deal with 1 hour a week if it was still more for the actual language learning, which I think is why a lot of people ask me this question, because whenever I tell people it, I'm like, please don't let it put you off. This is one university. But also bear in mind that a language degree, at least in England, isn't purely learning languages. You have to learn culture, history, linguistics. You can't get around it. Yeah, you can choose out of those content modules which ones are your favorite. But for example, in my course, you need 120 credits. Spanish only counts for 20. French only counts for 20. So only a third of my course is actually language learning, and the rest I have to make up through other modules. So it's something to bear in mind when you're looking at universities, but all universities on their website have the modules that they offer for first year, second year, etc. So you can see if there are content modules that suit your needs, because I, for example, looked at going to the University of Leeds, and I looked at the modules and they were majority literature based, and I hate literature, so I knew if I went to Leeds I was going to fail my degree because I was going to have to do so much literature, so I ended up not going. So it's just a case of looking at each individual university, but bear in mind when you're doing a language degree, it's not going to be all dancing in rainbows, learning a language, yay, this is fun. It is really hard, and it's not majority language, which is why sometimes I say to people, you know, you might really enjoy language learning, but unless you want to make a career out of it, I recommend just keeping it as a hobby. You'll learn more doing it as a hobby than doing it at university, in my opinion.
I think so. Unfortunately, because especially if you want to become a teacher, you must do the languages and literature career here in Italy. But with linguistics and cultural mediation, you're more flexible because you learn languages, especially you can add business modules and business courses. So in a more general way, but actually this allows you to be more flexible, and in fact, I will choose another career, another path instead of you, Nikia. And so yeah, I actually noticed that I sit down a lot studying languages, especially Japanese, because of course I'm learning an Asian language because it's really difficult, so I tend to spend a lot of time learning it. But English, I noticed that I spend like 0 time learning it. First of all, because I use English on a daily basis to communicate with all of you. In fact, I'm using English right now. So it's like I'm constantly training English. Actually, I consider English as my second language, even though I still make a lot of mistakes. I think it's okay because I'm still learning, and I will never stop learning, so I will keep making mistakes, guys. I also keep making mistakes in my own native language, so
Exactly.
let's not talk about perfection I feel that English is my second language because I use it on a daily basis to communicate with people. Even if they're not living with me, they're basically living with me in some kind of way. Not physically, but virtually.
Mhm.
I use English in order to communicate also with all of you when you reach me out on DMs and stuff like that. So I do not study English, but I practice English a lot. And I also use English for entertainment purposes because I watch lots of vlogs that are in English. Actually, I never watch vlogs that are in Italian, to be honest. I just watch them in Korean, Japanese, and English stuff.
Wow.
Then I also study different subjects in English. I study linguistics in English. I study a little bit of business in English. I tend to look for marketing stuff that I'm interested in English because there are many more resources available in English than in Italian, and I think that business should be learned in English. Actually, I hope it makes sense, especially because I want to be able to work in the future with other countries, so not sticking to Italy and the Italian market. So I think that if I really learn stuff that will be useful in English, which is the language that I will use to communicate with other people, so yeah, just makes sense that I studied already everything in English, as I'm kind of proficient and I'm kind of fluent in English. So
that is so weird to hear from you, since I'm English and my mentality is always just, everyone stop learning English so I can learn your language, please.
I know.
Speaks English, and I'm like, oh guys, please don't speak English to me, let me practice my languages.
In fact, when I meet other for example, I was talking with a girl yesterday who is Spanish, and I was like, okay, we can talk English, but if you sometimes want to just use your native language because you're tired and you don't want to think in another language, I can switch to Spanish without any problems. And she was like, no, please, I need to practice my English. And I was like, I want to practice my Spanish as well. So I think that this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. If anyone's learning English, then it's instantly always taught in English, and I'm bad for it as well. Like, if I know someone is able to speak in English, even if I say I'm going to practice with them, like in my in my target language, I always end up switching to English because I know I have that safety net of they understand what I'm saying in English.
Exactly. But luckily, we can do this in Spanish as well.
Yeah, we're both non-native Spanish speakers, but we speak Spanish together. Yeah,
guys, the life of a polyglot is tremendous because you switch the language basically every voice message you send. Mm-hmm. So it's a hellish nightmare, guys. Because at the end of the day, you really do not know which is the language that you were supposed to speak with another person. Because I end up speaking sometimes also Japanese or Spanish with my boyfriend, and he's used to that, so he just answered me in Italian or English or Spanish at times, and he was like, I give up. Oh. Guys, it happens. And compared to the cultural / literature stuff, these are just models. So I study for the exam and then pick the books, I grab the books from the library and throw them away into the bin. Goodbye. So it's just part of the models. They're interesting, of course, but you do not learn a language with literature and culture. So, but that's my answer. really practical answer. Okay, so we have the last three. Guys, this is a long episode, but I hope you enjoy because we are having so much fun. Basically, it's like we're just chit-chatting, basically. Mm-hmm. So grab your tea, grab your favorite coffee, and just sip it with us. So listen to us ranting about our lives, because we love what we study, but we also hate it at the same time.
Yeah. I love learning languages, but oh my god, university is just... it sometimes stresses me out so much, and when you talk about it like on Instagram and stuff, people don't understand, so it's nice to be able to talk to someone who's actually doing languages in university and they understand exactly what I'm saying.
They do not know. They do not know how the suffers and the pain that we have to go through to get the piece of paper. Oh gosh, so how does it work when you enter a non-beginner class? Is everyone at the same level?
I don't know about in Italy, but no, you're definitely not all at the same level, and that is something that I wasn't expecting. So obviously you do an A level, and that is how you get into university. And some people might have got accepted with an A grade, some people might have got accepted with a C grade. It purely depends, but you will all be in the same class. So when I started in first year, my first semester, I went to my first Spanish class, and one, I was shocked about the fact that we only spoke in Spanish. Be prepared for that. You will not use English in your seminars for your languages, which is something that my teachers did not prepare me for. And then being in the class, there was at least 4 people who were fluent. They had done a gap year and went and worked or volunteered in Spain, Peru, Ecuador, any places like that, and then came and did their degree and were already fluent. But and speaking about perfectionism and whatnot, as we mentioned before, it's really hard, and you are going to feel like you're not good enough, you shouldn't be there. I think it's called imposter syndrome, where you just think you shouldn't be there, you don't deserve to be there. I definitely went through that throughout all of first year, but then by second year you start realizing that you are still improving, and that's what matters. As long as you are improving and you get to where you want to be, it doesn't matter if these people had the money to go and do a gap year. You need to focus on your goal, and if that is going to plan, that's what you've got to focus on. And I think I've gotten better at doing that in second year and now third year. I don't worry as much about going to my seminars and making a fool of myself, because I used to think, oh my god, I'm paired with someone who is fluent, how am I ever going to work, like I'm going to embarrass myself so much. But now I'm just more focused on improving myself. They can improve however they want, they're already fluent, they probably don't need to improve. But as long as I'm using that very precious 1 hour of language learning that I have to improve myself, then I think it's fine. And it will be hard to get into that mentality, but you will get there eventually.
Totally agree. Actually, it's basically the same. It just depends, as I said previously other many times, on your university. Because in my case, so University of Milan, in linguistics and cultural mediation, for some languages, European languages, there are different courses. You have the main course in which you learn, I don't know, linguistics or other stuff, but there are also practical lessons that are called esercitazioni. And for German, French, and Spanish, I know for sure, there are different classes based on your level. So there are beginner classes, there are mid-advanced, so there are intermediate and upper intermediate classes. When I was studying German, I applied for the intermediate, so the people that were supposed to have studied German for 3 years, but I regretted it a lot because they were assuming that you did lots of stuff, but in high school I didn't, because I was so unlucky with my professors that I should have applied probably for the beginner course. Because it was really intensive and you were meant to study a lot and catch up all the other people that were already more fluent. So as I said, depends really on your university. German, Spanish, and French have this kind of classification for their practical classes. English, no, because you were meant to be a B2.
Wow.
Or no, B1, I'm sorry. B1, I think. Because, yeah, that's the level of many people when you go out of high school. It was me that I already had the C1 certification, and I was like doing not the last one, so the fourth year of high school, I sat the C1 test, so the Cambridge certification, and I passed it. So I was like the unicorn at English class. Because you know what, here in Italy we study languages, but not really that, like you said, in the UK, so not really, our professor just crap most of the times. And many people really talk with a strong Italian accent, really strong Italian accent. I think I'm one of the, I don't know, most Americanish kind of person in my class. And my professor, who are mainly from England, are like, wow, why do you speak with such American accent? I'm like, I don't know, I just grew up talking like this, but I don't know. Guys, it's just part of me. I don't know. And in fact, when I go to classes, I tend to mix a little bit with British a little bit more. But now that I'm home and just consuming lots of American stuff, I just speak like if I was from the US, straight out of the US, guys. But I'm not. I can tell you that I'm not, because I make so many grammar mistakes. I'm so sorry, guys. And yay, so it just depends. And I can assure you that we do not have the same level once you enter the class. Because as Nick said, you probably got out with a very good mark, so with an A, the B or C. In my case, we have like 100, 90, 80 kind of points. But it all depends if you were lucky with your professors or not. So I can tell you that, I can assure you that you do not enter a class and you magically have the same level as other people if you didn't study, or if you didn't have the chance to study that well a language while in high school. Personal experience. So, in what way do you approach languages differently that you use for school than you do for languages you learn for fun? This is my favorite question. Thank you, Rose, for sending it. You're such a clever girl.
I definitely think that you're going to be the expert on this one, because I've only recently started self-teaching languages, so I don't really have much to say on it, except, oh my god, learning a language by yourself is hard.
Yay, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely difficult, because you have to learn. First of all, you have to look for the resources. And if you learn languages that are not really that popular, you might find difficult to look for resources, to find them actually. I was really frustrated when I was thinking about learning Icelandic, and I gave up immediately because I couldn't find the resources that could work for me, because I already know what works and what doesn't work for me, and I couldn't find something that could work for me back in the days. So I decided to then invest on Korean. And I spent a whole year getting overwhelmed by the enormous amount of resources. So it's really difficult to learn a language on your own, because you have to look for stuff on your own, and it's hard because you don't have a teacher or someone that can guide you actually. So it's really difficult. But you can set your pace. You can learn the language whenever you want to, for the amount of time that you want to, so you're completely free. And this is so much stress relieving for me. While in university, you had to deal with stress a lot. You will feel so much stressed with languages, because actually you tend to compare yourself with your classmates. So first of all, comparison. Second, the fear of speaking to your professor that judges you, because basically the teacher is there to guide you and to give you tips in order to improve, but you feel extremely judged by the professor and your classmates, so you have to deal with different people. While when you learn a language on your own, you can just apply for a tutor, and it's just the tutor and you, if you choose individual classes. So it's a little bit less stressful in some kind of way, but it's still stressful in my opinion. And you also have to deal with the exams. I think that's the worst thing that you have to deal with, once you learn languages at university, because you probably know the language. In my case, let's talk about me for a second. In my case, I know that I can read Japanese, I can speak Japanese a little bit. I actually am really good at grammar because I can recognize it, I immediately know what it means. But when it comes to the freaking test, I don't know why my teacher really she loves making things 10 times more difficult, and I always end up with a crappy mark. But once I sit for the oral exam and actually interact with her, I have some difficulties because of course I'm still learning, and speaking Japanese is really difficult, but she knows that I know stuff. So she's like, why did you get such mark? And I'm like, girl, you have to stop making that exam so much difficult, okay? So it's really frustrating because you have to deal with kind of standardized texts and exams. So it's really stressful because you actually want to aim at a good mark. You want to aim a good one, you want to get a good mark. So it's really stressful, in my opinion. But can also really help you with tackling different stuff. So in my case, for example, business. And so there are pros and cons about studying languages at university. But yeah, definitely the best thing is that you always have support from a teacher. Basically, I think it's the best thing about learning languages at university.
And I think people need to remember that the type of language you're going to learn at university is the language you need to pass an exam. It's not the language you need to be able to go to Spain, France, wherever you're wanting to go and speak comfortably. For example, like in my exams, I have to do an interpreting exam, which means that pretty much all this year we are focusing on very formal language, on business language. Whereas if I were to go to Spain, none of that would ever be useful. And I think self-studying a language means you can cut out all the parts that you don't need, and you can purely learn like conversational language or informal language. It doesn't have to be a little bit of informal stuff, but then all the stuff to pass an exam. Because I know that what I get taught in classes nowadays, I spend hours and hours on it every night so that I can do well in my exams, but I'm sat there writing it out thinking, I'm never going to use this grammar structure because it's so formal. Like native Spanish speakers don't even use it. It's purely for this exam. So that's also a little bit of a con of studying it in university. But like I say, if you want to go into the business route or marketing or anything like that, it's really useful. But as a teacher, well, as a person who wants to become a teacher, it's not very useful to me.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because you tend to learn lots of academic related stuff at university, which is not useful to speak a language. It's just useful if you want to achieve that C2 or C1 level, so the more advanced levels, because with those levels, you can actually work with that language, work in the country that speaks the language, and also read academic stuff. So for example, scientific papers or business related papers. So it's all about the higher level when you have to study language at university. So it's really, really different. So last but not least, we have what fields or career paths can you pursue with a language degree?
Again, I feel like you're going to know a bit more about this than me, because ever since I was 15 years old, I have known that I wanted to become a language teacher. So when I've applied for a language degree and when I've applied for my PGCE to become a teacher, like I've not looked at any other options that are available to me. I purely have teacher in mind. So yeah, you can become a teacher if you do a language degree, but I'll leave the rest to Michelle to explain the rest because I honestly have no idea.
To be honest, I think it really depends also on the university that you're gonna apply to, because again, in Italy you have two different paths. The one that is called languages and literature that allows you to become a teacher, and or otherwise a literature expert, some kind of stuff, you know, the jazz. But in my opinion, I think that linguistics and cultural mediation allows you to be more flexible because you tend to learn also other stuff. So in my case, you learn economics and law, so you can also become an intern or I don't know, work for a company for the import-export section. You can also become a translator if you do translation models. You can also apply for how do you call that?
Interpreting.
Okay, sorry. Too many languages in my brain that are trying to. No, it's interpretariato. No, it's interpretación and all the other stuff. So it's really, really that difficult. So yeah, you just choose the models and then like direct your career. You actually choose the path that you want to follow. And you can also work, for example, a humanitarian organization. If you want to pursue that career, you can just add stuff like sociology or psychology in order to give you the tools to work with people and help them in order to be able to help them. So you can choose different paths because languages can be a tool, not your main focus, but a tool. It depends a lot on how you want to structure your academic career. So just think wisely of what you want to do in your future and then build your academic career with the exams that will actually help you with getting the knowledge that might help you. Okay? So, thank you so much, guys, for staying with us, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and see you next time. But first of all, I would like to thank Nikia for sticking with us for so long.
It's okay. I had so much fun. I love ranting about languages.
Me too. Okay, guys, see you next week with a brand new episode of Michelle Languages Podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye.